Anyway, there's lots to get to, so let's get to it. First, we're going to start with Global Affairs Canada issuing a travel advisory. Here is the wording of the travel advisory. Kirk says, Canada has all but lost its mind. Yes, yep. Government of Canada has added a travel advisory warning for the S2 LGBTQI plus alphabet soup travelers to the United States. Look out for monkeypox. Has nothing to do with monkeypox. Latest updates, laws and culture, S2 LGBTQI plus travelers. August 29th at 10:09 a.m. Some states have enacted laws and policies that may affect alphabet soup persons. Check relevant state and local laws. So you're going to Washington, eh? Check those local laws. It's unbelievable. I'm not surprised because the way we behave in Canada with diplomacy seems very green. Between the Twitter diplomacy we've done, all of the Russia stuff, everything foreign, anything that we've had to negotiate, the USMCA, all of the rest of it has seemed poorly done by the Liberals, and this is no different. So it's wild. CTV News is reporting the same thing. Global Affairs Canada issues an LGBTQ plus travel advisory for the United States. Right? Be careful. Be careful. And here's a reporter asking a very pertinent question. Did you talk to the Biden administration before this was issued? And does Freeland answer the question? Does she answer anything? Yankee says Chrystia Freeland is asked why her government issued a travel advisory for LGBTQ plus people in the United States. Freeland speaks of protecting the interests and the safety of every single Canadian and every single group of Canadians. It's liberal tap dance on display. Here we go.
Why has your government issued?
That's way too fast. Sorry. That's I preview all the clips, right? I listen to it to make sure it's useful and it makes sense in the story. So it's useful. And sometimes we listen to a minute, sometimes we listen to more. Here we go.
Why has your government issued the travel advisory for LGBTQ plus people to the United States? And was this something you discussed with President Biden, or your government discussed with President Biden?
Honest question. Did she just eat a lemon before this person asked? Her face just like she... Hold on a second. Taking a shot at tequila. Okay, question. Go. Okay. Sorry, just quick aside.
Biden first.
So, as someone who has had the real privilege of serving as Canada's foreign minister, I know that our travel advisories are done very professionally. We have professionals in the government whose job is to look carefully around the world and to...
The question was, did you talk to the Biden administration? And she said, the people who do our travel advisories, not me. I don't do the travel. The people who do, very professional. Not me. I clip my toenails in Parliament.
Monitor whether there are particular dangers to particular groups of Canadians. That's their job, and it's the right thing to do. When it comes to the United States specifically, I have personal experience of dealing with a diversity of U.S. administrations and of dealing with American leaders at all levels of government, in all branches of government, and with Americans who represent diverse groups across the country, whether it is business or labor or civic organizations.
Did you talk to any of them?
And that's because our government understands, as every Canadian government needs to understand, that one of the principal responsibilities of the federal government is to understand how to work with our U.S. neighbor. I think our government has shown that that's a priority for us, and that we work hard at it, and that we're able to manage that relationship regardless of the choices that the people of the United States make. Even as we work hard on that government to government relationship, every Canadian government, very much including our government, needs to put at the center of everything we do the interests and the safety of every single Canadian and of every single group of Canadians. That's what we're doing now. That's what we're always going to do.
So did you talk to the Biden administration? Did any of your professional bureaucrats who are super professional and being professional is the right thing to do Did they talk to the Biden administration? Could you answer the question instead of giving us 2.5 minutes of fluff? Honestly, holy smoke. Sorry, I thought we had listened to the whole thing just to illustrate that she did not at any time address the actual question at all, period. She just talked and talked. Starts out about climate change and France. He's talking about Canada and he's talking about climate change in France. But moving into, we're talking about travel. We're going to talk about climate a little bit later in the show. But the plan is to wind all this stuff down. They don't want people flying. They don't want people, and that's illustrated by actions that France is taking. And the argument here is when France takes this action, Canada and the US, other places that are signed on to the SDG goals, this is part of that package, and we'll see this adopted soon, right? So here's this report.
Viewers of the show understand that I adhere to a few basic policies, one of which is whatever Canada is doing legislatively, do the opposite. But I may have to expand that policy to include France. And here's the latest reason why. The country has banned short-haul flights in the name of reducing carbon emissions. This applies to any destinations within France that can be reached in under 2.5 hours of a driving time. How long before this craziness gets to America?
Not long at all. I mean, what we see happens in Europe comes to the United States shortly. This has been part of a long-planned effort to fulfill the World Economic Forum's vision of, you'll own nothing, be happy. Well, this is you will go nowhere and be happy. And we're already seeing Bloomberg News is reporting that the idea of cheap airline travel in Europe is a thing of the past as, quote, climate compliance rules, unquote, get more and more strict. What they're doing is their government is banning these short-haul flights, forcing people into cars with a much higher death rate, by the way. You're much more likely to get in a car crash and die than a plane crash, number one. But this is the idea of that we're doing this to save the planet. Now, the French government admitted that this isn't even going to impact CO2 emissions. So it's actually completely symbolic in terms of the planet or the environment, but it's actually a major imposition on the French citizens. And it's spreading to Germany, Austria, other countries in Europe, and you can bet Canada is going to jump on this bandwagon. It's a net zero commitment. The BBC has already said, what would a flying free world look like? The fix is in, and it is coming to the United States. Their goal is to make this global and put restrictions. We already see the city of Oxford putting in 15-minute cities, hearkening back to the days of East Germany with travel restrictions. Let me see your papers. You cannot leave your sector.
I think he needs to work on his German impersonation, but otherwise terrifying, right? And so I hope that's wrong. I hope that's wrong, but it seems like it's taking shape. And well, like the COVID lockdowns, no one knows until everyone knows, and you're behind the proverbial Iron Curtain, and you do have to show your papers. Right? Here's Maxime Bernier, and we'll talk about laws and laws being rigged. I've talked about before how I think the elections are rigged and not controlled by Canadians. So whether that's Chinese interference, whether that's a mix of Chinese interference and just run-of-the-mill interference, I don't think it's Russia. I really don't. I never did think it was Russia. Even when they were saying, there's evidence that says it's Russia, I thought, nah, it doesn't seem legit. They said there's evidence that says this is safe and effective, and I haven't seen anything that's been convincing at all about that. So the Russia stuff sounds far-fetched and made up, like nonsense. So, and the judiciary also is corrupt, I think, right? And because of all of the decisions, we haven't had a proper Oakes test. I don't think we've had a knockdown, drag out. Let's actually debate this. Let's have lawyers on either side talking about the constitutionality of suspending your rights in order for the greater good. Like that is wars were fought over this, right? The Second World War was fought over this. You have autonomy. You don't have to fall in line with the government. You get freedom of speech, you get freedom of association, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And here's Maxime Bernier weighing in on the rigging of the justice system by the current liberals who are giving appointments to donors to their political party. He says, in response to the National Post's headline, high-level judges may have paid to meet Trudeau before their appointments, Maxime Bernier says, no wonder so many cases challenging obvious violations of our fundamental rights are being thrown out by the courts. Judges are liberal activists and donors. Our judicial system is corrupt to its core. I don't think that there's any other conclusion. I don't think that Tamara Lich is going to get a fair trial, just like the Freedom Convoy, the Rouleau report wasn't a fair shake. The Johnston debacle wasn't a fair look at China's interference in our anything. The Jody Wilson-Raybould thing, SNC-Lavalin gave an indication of how corrupt our courts were and corrupted by politics the courts were. And then David Lametti, that whole debacle, just David Lametti generally. But here specifically for David Lametti, Tracy is reminding us of this news article from May 29th, 2021, where the Justice Minister accidentally tweets that one of his campaign donors will become a judge. Oops. Man, shucks, right? It's like teabagging you in Halo, man. They're just standing there telling you what they're going to do, right? My brother and I used to play Modern Warfare, the Modern Warfare 2, the really good one with the airport. And I'm still terrible at those games. I invert, if I've got a gun, like if there's a cross, right? Or if I'm flying and I've got a Xbox controller, up is down, obviously, and down is up, which is controversial as all get out. Don't get me started. And so aiming the gun is not difficult because I understand, and it's instinctive for me, up is down and down is up. So I'm, moving up and down, but if it's inverted, like if up is up, all bets are off. There's no way. Anyway, my brother and I would play Modern Warfare, and I was terrible. And so he would have knives. He would have just knives. He wouldn't have any weapons at all. And I would have mortars, and I would have sticky bombs that would blow, like you could booby trap a hallway and you'd get a frag. That was how I killed that's how I killed him most of the time, or sniper rifles from far away. But he was very good, and so sometimes he'd let me win. The point of the story is, one day we were playing and he said, I'm only going to use knives, and we'll see how you do. And he absolutely destroyed me. And he would tell me what he was going to do. He was like, okay, so you're walking down the hallway, I can see you. And I was like, where are you? And he was like, I'm going to walk up behind you and stab you in the back of the head, or stab you in the back of the neck, or, whatever it is. And he would just walk up, and I would be aware and trying to kill him, and he would just kill me anyway. Teabagging me, man, just telling me in real time. We were in the same room. He was like, no, you're done. Number 8. And I would have him dead 2 times or something like that. Ridiculous. Teabagging me, just like these guys seem to be teabagging us, right? Oh, I accidentally tweet about this donor of mine becoming a judge. Nothing to see here. CBC runs it. Everybody says, yawn. Right? Nobody cares. It's such a weird thing to have nobody care about Canadian politics at a level that is nationwide apathy, unless you're talking about something ridiculous, unless you're talking about something that's manufactured that the news is blowing up, right? It's crazy. Here's Blacklock's reporter. They say too many prison breaks at healing lodges, says this report from the Correctional Facilities of Canada, the Correction Service of Canada. Escapees include violent convicts serving times for homicide and robbery. So that's not good. We've got just clean bail for violent criminals. And also, if you're serving time, you get your sentence reduced to a situation where you're in a healing lodge and they just trust you to come and go as you please, and then you just don't come back. And nobody seems to care, right? And nobody really seems to care. It's a very concerning thing watching the safety, the trust-based society slip away, because we are watching that. It's I would say slow until it's like watching a tunnel being drilled on the other side where they're about to break through and you can hear it, but you can't see it yet, but you can hear it. And then all of a sudden the whole part starts to become apparent and you're like, oh yeah, maybe I can see that. And then suddenly it's like, boom. So I think that it's creeping and creeping and creeping, and then suddenly it'll be undeniable. And people will say, what happened? It used to be so safe like last year, but it's not safe now. That's the difference, right? It just maybe feels safe because you're not aware of all of the danger around you. Here's the Globe and Mail to illustrate the danger around you. And I'm not trying to push fear. I'm just trying to make people aware that this is just one segment of the population that we're not able to deal with at this point in time because we're ineffective in our institutions. Our institutions are not working effectively to do the jobs that they're designed to do. Here's the Globe and Mail, published yesterday. Arrest warrants issued for 300 foreign criminals deemed a danger to the public facing deportation. The federal authorities have active arrest warrants for 300 foreign criminals deemed a danger to the public and facing deportation from Canada, including sex offenders and people convicted of violent crimes, according to the Canada Border Service Agency. It is trying to track down more than 37,000. 37,000? I've been in towns with a smaller population in Ontario, not far from here. People go to farmers markets in those towns. Foreigners who may pose a flight risk may not voluntarily agree to be questioned. What? Hi, we're from the police. We'd like to question you. Not right now, thanks. No mas. No mas. No anglas. Okay. Or attend an immigration meeting. What? They don't want to attend the immigration hearing, so they're just allowed to say no. Or who may pose a danger to the public. Weird. The figures provided to the Globe and Mail come 3 years after the Auditor General raised serious concerns that the border agency had lost track of a number of foreign nationals facing deportation, including criminals. As of last month, there were 37,326 active immigration arrest warrants, of which 33,032 are to remove people from Canada. The CBSA told the Globe and Mail they included 306 Canada-wide arrest warrants for people deemed a danger to the Canadian public. That's bad, right? That's bad. So there's a lot of people who should not be in Canada who are in Canada, and at least 300 of them are actively violent and a danger to the Canadian public. But don't worry, everything's just fine. We've definitely got to get a handle on this at some point, or whatever, right? I don't know. I'm not sure I believe any of that either. We've got free speech to talk about, and part of the plan that was alluded to in the first series of tabs today, talking about how this is a well-orchestrated plan, and this part of the plan is shutting down the airline industry, and you'll travel and you'll have nothing, and you'll have no travel, and you'll be happy, because if you're not happy, well, we'll re-educate you until you are, right? Clockwork Orange style. But it's interesting to me how censoring the internet is more important than, well, people having Canadian news. They keep trying to make the argument that Facebook not carrying Canadian news is a safety issue, and that they should carry Canadian news because safety reasons, blah, 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 blah. But they don't make a good case about that. But I knew that as soon as this went through, so the newspapers up till this point in time were silent. They didn't say a darn word about anything with regard to C-18. Pablo Rodriguez was talking about the bill as if it was talking about the negotiations with Facebook and Google when they were saying, we will just take the links off our website. He said, you're bluffing. And they said, no, we're not. And they're not. And so I said, that represents up to 80% of the traffic to those websites, right? If you have people who like news, and there are a lot of newsy people, they like to go talk about the news in their place, in their comfortable place, right? And that's Facebook for a lot of people. So they go and they share the news article, and everybody says, yay, we're all virtue signaling the same. And they talk about the news article there, and people get clicks there. You can't do that anymore. 80% of the traffic collapses to that website, and the website is no longer valuable because they haven't felt the need to diversify their traffic away from Facebook. And because of that, they are now in a situation where their traffic is collapsing. They're watching it in real time, and now they're speaking up. They didn't say anything up until now, and now they're saying, holy smoke, this has done real harm. And so this government may have to respond, or, I mean, they're going to get thrown out of office, hopefully. But then Poilievre will come in. Maybe he'll repeal it. Maybe he won't. Somebody said the other day as well, and just not to get off on a big tangent, but somebody said the other day, I said, well, if Poilievre repeals the tax, then people will be pretty happy. And he said, do you remember that John Chrétien campaigned on repealing the GST? His whole thing was he was going to repeal the GST, and he got into office, and then guess what? No GST was repealed. And so the theory is that Mr. Poilievre is not telling the truth about axing the tax. So tell me what you think in the comments. Do you think he's going to actually do it? I don't know. I was skeptical too. After I heard that, I was like, oh man, I was too young to really understand the impact of that. But yeah, I think you're right. Holy smoke. Holy smoke. Okay. Back to free speech and censoring the internet, which was the actual plan, and it's supposed to be going in lockstep, because you can only think one way. You're only allowed to think in the approved ways, and unapproved things aren't even supposed to enter your sphere of thought. It's not supposed to enter your realm of so you could even be infected by that thought, right? If you didn't even know what freedom was, that would be preferable, I think, to the powers that be. So they're trying to limit free speech to the extent that it's more important to have this legislation than it is to support or to allow small news articles or small news places to post on Facebook. Michael Geist is sharing In Saga's article, and he quotes, "We do not see the sharing of our content as exploitative on behalf of tech companies. They share links to our content, and those links direct readers to our website. In our view, this is a tax on links that is hurting businesses like ours." Yeah, so the whole In Saga piece is here, and I'll just read a little bit of it. Um, this is a strange thing. Here's their argument about it being a safety concern. There's also a major safety angle to this fight. And then at the end, they say, while the news was everywhere and emergency alerts were sent to people's phones, so many people heard about the active shooter situation on Facebook and Instagram, this very well may have saved lives. So at the beginning of this little section, they make a statement saying like, this is a major safety, or there's a major safety angle to this. And then at the end, they back way off of that, or they back way off of proving that by saying this very well may have saved lives. The story outlines a fatally shot police constable, and then the shooting spree that happened after that. And they're saying that because Facebook shared that, people were saved. I don't think there's any proof of that, is there? Just don't think there is. Further down, it talks about the bill. It says, the bill, which in our view effectively compels tech companies to pay for links, has achieved the opposite of its goal. It has not bolstered our revenues. It has endangered them. We understand why the Online News Act was considered a step in the right direction by the Liberal government. For years, ailing publications have asked the government for financial support to prevent layoffs and closures. Industry, like so many others, has struggled. One of the things, I'm interested in business. I like business. I think business is super interesting generally. One of the core tenets of business, Alex Hormozy talks about this as well, is like your offer matters. What you're offering matters. If nobody looks up at your offer, if nobody takes notice of your offer, if nobody's interested in your offer, then your offer is probably crap, basically, right? And these businesses that ask for handouts don't understand that in doing that action alone is admitting their offer's crap, right? And sorry, like, you're not engaging your audience in the way they need to be engaged. There's something you're missing. You're not doing something right, and you need to change your offer. You need to change it up. You need to do something that's going to engage your audience, because like, your business shouldn't rely on Facebook, right? Right? Like, people should seek it out. They should say, you know who I need to look at? InSauga, because I live in Mississauga, or whatever it is. Like, it's your offer, man. It's not Facebook. I mean, in this case, yeah, you built your business on something that you thought would be there forever. But like, here's an example of the government monkeying with things for fun and having unintended consequences that perhaps could sink this business. And that's not good for them, right? That's not good for them. Here's the next part of this. We are now caught in the middle of a power struggle that never had to happen during a time of economic uncertainty, no less. We hope the government does the right thing and re-examines this legislation, and soon. Re-examines the legislation. They don't even call for full repeal. They're just saying, could you look at it again? And soon. It's interesting, right? They should call these people out because they caused this problem, but also they caused this problem by not having a great offer. But still, fundamentally, it's like having your YouTube channel canceled, right? You've built this business. You think, man, I'm doing great. YouTube loves me. I post every day and everybody likes that, and so on and so forth. And then boom, it's gone. And you're like, well, what happened now? And I mean, I've seen people with way bigger channels than me have a situation where a whole bunch, like, who was it? Crowder, maybe. There were a whole bunch of people who, Crowder's maybe most well known, but there were a whole bunch of people with smaller channels than Crowder, but way bigger than me, hundreds of thousands of people. So they're making good money, right? Like, that's good money, and you're getting pretty good revenue every month, and gone, right? And they're like, what do I do now? There was one guy who, what's his name? The guy who sings Everything Woke Turns to Shit. That guy, he's like a ragtime piano player. So he had this huge YouTube channel. He had, maybe 100,000 subscribers. He's making decent money, and boom, gone. And now he's in turmoil, right? Is that because his offer's not good enough? No, right? No, but it's hard to find an audience, right? And so the model worked on YouTube for him. But if you have a business that is a website, a news website, that's a little bit different than being a ragtime pianist, right? No? Are the governments going to ban the ragtime pianists? YouTube did. So Michael Geist says Pablo Rodriguez called blocking news links a business decision under Bill C-18, but didn't understand the business. No, he really didn't. He said for months that news content is highly substitutable on Facebook, and that does not change the user engagement. And it is why it was never a bluff. And the Globe and Mail is reporting Meta's news ban fails to dent Facebook usage. It's because the way humans work is Facebook is like your local bar, and your Facebook friends that comment on your thing or on whatever, that usually comment on your stuff, that's like your group of people in Friends, or your group of people in How I Met Your Mother, like the guys sitting around at the bar, Barney and I don't know, the tall guy and the witch from Buffy and all those people, right? It's your friends, and they're going to comment, and you don't rely on that, but that's where you go. That's like your hangout spot. Some people it's Reddit, some people it's Twitter, some people it's Facebook. A lot of people it's Facebook. And so doing this has impacted things, but you don't change your behavior because the news isn't there. I remember, here's a quick I remember story. You used to be able to go smoking, like I used to smoke Belmont Mild king size, baby, and the charcoal filters, right? And when I smoked, you could smoke in the bar when I started. You could smoke inside the bar when I started. And then Guelph brought in a bylaw, and I think it's pretty well everywhere now, that you can't smoke inside. And I mean, honestly, your clothes stink. Like if you were in a bar and you weren't smoking, your clothes stank. Your hair stank, everything stank. Everything stank of smoke. And if you were smoking, I mean, it was great because it didn't matter. I remember the Jimmy Jazz, which is where we smoked and hung out. The heater wasn't working, so everybody smoked more. And you could see the curl of the cigarette smoke because nobody was opening the door because the heater wasn't working. So we were just keeping it all in. It was terrible. It was terrible. So they probably made the right call, but we ignored that and just kept smoking anyway. And then enforcement happened, and the enforcement continued, and we kept going to the bar until we aged out of that, right? We kept going there. And so even though things changed, even though they took away the news, people are going to keep going there and hanging out. And even if the heat is turned off, man, you just huddle up and smoke more cigarettes, right? That'll heat the place up. Okay, the Don't Tread on Me flag, the Gadsden flag, is being, I don't know, there's a controversy around this whole thing. And here is the controversy in a video. And the problem with this kind of approach is that this woman is just a representative. So for me, there's no point in having this meeting. You can't do anything for me. You're just an anonymous random person who's enforcing a policy handed down on high. I want to talk to somebody who's enforcing this nonsense. Or I want to talk to somebody who can actually make a change. You can see here the Gadsden flag, right, on the backpack, and it's a patch, so it's ironed on. And they're trying to say, don't bring your backpack to school. Come to school, but don't bring your backpack to school. And he's like, no, I'm not going to do that. So this is the patch that's on his backpack. And Zachary says, the Gadsden flag controversy is an example of a repressive tolerance, the operating system of leftism. Within the culture, left-wing flags like Black Lives Matter and the Progress flags are to be tolerated, while right-wing flags must be shut down. This is how they shift everyone leftwards, right? And then when they start doing this kind of censorship, this person comes in and says, well, I'm just enforcing a policy. You know, the policy comes from somebody else, but I'm just enforcing it. And, you know, you can get mad, but, you know, I understand you're confused or you're upset, blah, blah, blah. Watch how she manages this. This is very reminiscent of COVID. It's very reminiscent of somebody saying, you can't do this. This goes against my rights, blah, 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 blah. And the person's like, oh, you know, I understand you think that. This is learned through that kind of environment, and they're exploiting it. And I think it's terrible, but here we go.
Flag, the reason we do not want the flag displayed is due to its origins with slavery and slave trade. That is what was, as the reasoning behind why we do not want it displayed.
The Gadsden flag.
The Don't Tread on Me.
Okay. Which is the Gadsden flag. Okay, so he's what's going to happen if he doesn't take it off?
He is able to go. I was actually just telling him, like, I was upset that he was missing so much school. I'm like, so I asked if can he just take his stuff out of his bag and go back to class. Like, I just want him to go back to class. The bag can't go back if it's got the patch on it, because we can't have that in and around other kids. So that's what I was trying, and then he said you were close. So I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with slavery. That's like the Revolutionary War patch that was displayed when they were fighting the British. Like that's the revolution. Maybe you're thinking of like the Confederate flag.
Okay, I am
Is there
just
history
here
you
to
can
enforce.
tell me?
No, I am here to enforce the policy that was provided by the district, and definitely you have every right to not agree with it. I mean,
Yeah, because the
absolutely.
ACLU says that he's allowed to wear that. If you like go on their website, it's like says in big letters.
All I'm saying is that
Unless there's like a ban on patches, period. Like if you said there's no patches allowed at the school, you cannot display what you think or anything like that, or what cheer or anything like that. I think it's like one-sided, you know, because you allow some patches, but not other patches.
Kids have patches like other names and like the American flag on their backpacks.
Yeah. That was like flown during the revolution with,
She got the flag wrong. She was saying that this flag has ties to slavery or whatever. And she got other things wrong as well. It is very interesting how that kind of manipulation, that kind of structure is used to shut down a parent being upset. I saw a post yesterday that said he was allowed back in class and he won basically, but I can't find it today. So apologies about that. But I think that he won. I think that he was allowed back in class after they talked to the district because the website said he was allowed to wear the patches and they said, stop being crazy. Yeah, I mean, wild stuff. The law only applies to conservatives. There was, after he was told that he wasn't allowed to stay in school because of the patches, he wasn't allowed to stay in the class because of the patches, he went out and took a picture of one of the cars in the parking lot, teachers' cars, I guess, and he said, these are the approved bumper stickers you're allowed to have at the school, right? But you have something like "Don't tread on me" on a backpack. That's bad, right? "Make America Green Again" is okay. "Don't tread on me," Gadsden flag, bad. Hello, everyone. Thanks very much for watching. This is just a short version of a longer show. If you'd like to get the whole show, you can go over to CanadaPoly.com and sign up for a subscription. Just look in the drop-down tab for Shop and Donate and look for subscriptions, and you'll get immediate access to the full show. Love to see you. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful